Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews, and it's a big week, kids. Ugh. Yes, it's a huge week. So with so many books, we're going to get started. But before we get to the regular books, I want to point out a couple of graphic novels and hardcover that came out this week. First up, we have, it's huge, Hellboy artist collection, Richard Corben, with written by Mike Mignola and with artwork by Richard Corben. So what this does is it collects all of the Richard Corben artwork that he did for Hellboy. And it's really a beautiful, beautiful set. It's the same hardcover size as the Hellboy Library Edition, so it kind of fits in with that. So they're at least keeping all of the Hellboy hardcovers in that style, which is really nice. But it's really great to get all the Richard Corben work that he did on Hellboy all in one place. So that's really, really nice. It was really honestly, it's only $50, so it's a really good deal, and I highly recommend it. I'm a huge fan of Richard Corben, and it really kind of goes nicely with the reprints that they're doing with the Richard Corben library. Now, those are being remastered color-wise to get closer to the original artwork, where these are much newer books, and Dave Stewart did the coloring on it. So these ones don't really have to be remastered. They're just collecting them. So it's really nice. And there's a nice foreword by Mignola covering he talks about each story that he did with Corben and how it came about. So definitely pick that up if you're a Hellboy fan. If you're a Richard Corben fan, it's a no-brainer on that one. Then we have Barkham Asylum by written and drawn by Yudi Micardo. Now, I haven't had a chance to read it because there's so many comics this week. I want to this and the Hellboy, probably do a little bit, hopefully deeper dive into this, but this is basically the animal versions of villains from the DC universe. And I'm a really big fan of Yudi Mikado's. I read the free comic book day preview, really liked it, so I'm really looking forward to this book. And like I said, I'll do a little bit more in-depth review of it hopefully soon. And so we'll get that. So that's the two hardcovers and graphic novels that came out this week that you should really keep an eye out for. And so now let's get to the regular books. First up, we have White Boat #1, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Francisco Francavilla. So this is the new one of the new books from Distillery. And so what it is Lee and Ward, they're twins, and their father has a boat, and they take him out. He always took him out on the boat. And Lee had this feeling, that something was going to happen, so he went to sleep on the top bunk. And what it is that night, wave comes, knocks the boat over. Ward dies, and so we cut to kind of present day where Lee is I don't want to say he's a loser, but he's obviously really struggled in life. Never really, he's kind of a bit of a drunk party animal. And so he basically writes for this magazine, and so he gets an invitation to go on the White Boat. Now, the White Boat is this infamous, super multi-billion-dollar boat that nobody's really hardly ever seen, and there's kind of this mystery surrounded it. So Lee gets invited, and so he goes on the boat. The guy shows him around everything. And it's a really fancy, rich people's boat. But Lee says, hey, there's got to be much more. And so he discovers that there's a whole, underlayer of, mystery about kind of this, I don't want to say cult, but there's some mystery about how this white boat has evolved over, decades. Not just years, decades. And so Lee is kind of, I don't want to, he's not kidnapped, but he kind of is. And then he's taken to an island, and I don't want to give it away, but it's a really nice reveal. I really like this book. Snyder's been doing some really good creator-owned books, and this one's really good. And of course, having Francavilla do the artwork, I'm a really huge fan of his. And he does a lot of covers and everything, but he hasn't done a whole lot of regular books. So it's really nice to see his artwork, especially in this big format that Distillery does. I really like this book a lot. I really recommend it this week. It's one of my top picks. So definitely pick up White Boat #1, and keep an eye out. There is a Kelly Jones cover, which is really spectacular. And, I'm a big Kelly Jones fan. So definitely look to maybe pick up that cover along with the regular Francavilla cover, but the Kelly Jones was an open order, so it was orderable, so you should be able to maybe find it at your local comic shop. Next up, we have The Amazing Spider-Man #50, which its legacy number is number 944. So the main story is written by Zeb Wells with pencils by Ed McGuinness and inks by Mark Farmer. Then we have backup stories. We have Catnipped, written by Marv Wolfman, with pencils by Terry Dodson and inks by Rachel Dawson. Time to Make Donuts by Nikish Shakula, writing, and Chris Cross doing the artwork. Don't Think Thrice, It's All Right, written and drawn by Lee Gatlin. Then we have Secrets, written by Joe Kelly with artwork by Juan Friera. And then there's an epilogue written by Zeb Wells with artwork by Todd Knock. So the main story is really kind of a Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin, and Norman Osborn finds out, Peter Parker's secret, and it's a good story. I think it's just, pretty basic. I mean, there wasn't anything. The one kind of twist in there that's kind of interesting is Oscorp's created this giant sentient computer brain that, is a super smart computer. And the irony is it says Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. So that part of the story was, I think, much more interesting. The kind of Spidey Green Goblin thing was pretty basic stuff. It's not bad in anything, but it was a pretty basic Spider-Man story, and I liked it okay. I mean, let's be honest, McGuinness and Farmer's artwork is really nice, so it's a really pretty book. I just felt that the story was kind of like, okay, here's a Spider-Man story that you'll like. Now, Catnipped was actually a lot of fun. What that story is, it's about Black Cat stealing forgeries. And they're known forgeries, but really what she's doing is, it was stuff that her father was going to steal, but he never did, and she's kind of doing it as a tribute to her father. So it's actually a really fun story. Who isn't a big fan of Marv Wolfman? It's a really solid story, and Dodson doing the artwork is really, he's really definitely known for drawing Black Cat a lot. So that was a really fun story. Time to Make Donuts is where there's this cart that has donuts, or so Spider-Man goes there every day because he loves the donuts, but the guy who runs it says, hey, he forgot to give his mom the medicine. So Spidey says, okay, I'll take the medicine. But he said, hey, you've got to stay with my mom for like a half hour to make sure the medicine doesn't, knock her out or, make her wiggy or something. And so he goes there, and Peter's never learned to cook or anything. So she kind of teaches him really not so much about cooking, but how to slow down and take things in. I mean, she understands that he has to, save people all the time and stuff, but sometimes you need to slow down. And I think the most interesting part of the story is there's a connection between the mother and the son to actual Spider-Man, and she tells him this story. It's really sweet. Shakula's, the script is really good, and Chris Cross's artwork is really, really nice. But probably my favorite one, and this is nothing against anybody, is Lee Gatlin's Don't Think Thrice, It's All Right, which is a real humor story. It's kind of Spidey in the Thing, and how he gets mistaken for the Rhino, and there's a whole thing where he crashes a birthday party, which is hilarious. It is really just a fun story. It was, I don't know that it's worth $10, but I love this story to death. It was really, really good. I like the artwork. It has very much a cartoony style that fit the story. Gatlin really did a wonderful job here. I love this story to death. It was my absolute favorite of the book. Nothing against anybody else, but it was a blast. Secrets is interesting because it's Peters has like little ghost little minions on him, and he goes to Doctor Strange to get them, get the spell removed, and he discovers that Stephen has gone into battle and he's trying to recover. And you kind of see Stephen is very vulnerable in that moment. It's actually it's a very subtle story. I think it doesn't kind of jump out at you, but I think that's why it works pretty well, is that it's very more, kind of thought-provoking. So Kelly and Fiera's artwork is really nice. And then the epilogue really has to do with how the giant brain has turned into the walking, he turned into like a robot. So that's kind of going to lead into the next issue. Overall, I wouldn't say that I was, being at $10, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff here. And I think the page count does somewhat justify at least the $10 price tag. I don't know that I would spend $10 only because the main story is all nice and everything, but it wasn't anything really, mind-numbingly brilliant. I think the backup stories for me were a little bit more entertaining than the main story. But I think it's going to, this is going to be one of those, your mileage is going to vary. And I don't think it's terrible. I just think that it's not, the main story is really a continuation of the story. So you're just kind of paying for extra stuff. So if you're a regular reader, you're probably going to be fine. I think your mileage is going to vary on non-regular readers of the book. Next up, we have Batman First Night, number 3, written by Dan Jurgens with artwork by Mike Perkins. So this finishes the story, and what it is the Voice has basically set the stage to take over Gotham. And so what he does is, he has his like monster men. So Bruce has actually figured out how he is transforming him. He's found out, and he's found not so much an antidote, but what he finds out is that they are going to die, and this process does take time. So he's found a formula to speed up their decomposition. So what it is the Voice basically sets bombs around Gotham to set it on fire so he can hey, I can take over now that everybody, all the people that I've killed is, and I can take over. I'll run the city. You'll love it. And so basically, no surprise, Batman comes and saves the day. But this has really been a good story. And I think what's really good about it is they've set it in, this is like his first adventure. And, he doesn't have gadgets and stuff. He doesn't have the Batmobile, Batcopter, and all that kind of stuff. It's very stripped down Batman, and that's what I really liked about it. I mean, Jurgens' story has been really, really good. He wraps it up very nicely. But the big win for this book has always really been Mike Perkins' artwork, which is just absolutely gorgeous and really captures that period of the late 30s in just visually, and it's very rough and ready, and just really captures that feeling of that period. And that's what it's all in the story, but Perkins really brings it to life. And I really love this. If you miss this, I'm sure there's going to be a trade, or hopefully a hardcover of this, because it's really a gorgeous book and it's well worth checking out. I really like that. Now we got some stuff to catch up on. We have Redcoat number 2, written by Jeff Johns, with pencils by Brian Hitch and inks by Andrew Curry and Brian Hitch. So Simon has basically died, but he's immortal. So he's been dug up, and now he's in 1892, and he was dug up by a 12-year-old Albert Einstein, because what it is the cult that basically gave him the powers after him. So now, obviously, with the difference in time, these are not the regular cult members from back when he got the immortal powers. So they're obviously going after him for some reason. And so what it is they attack him with the axe of lies. And so it's actually damaged him, and then he finds out that it's going to kill him. So that kind of puts a monkey wrench into the whole immortality fiesta. I'm really actually kind of digging this book. I mean, let's be honest, Brian Hitch's artwork is really amazing, but I think what I've really liked about this second issue is the way that Johns has turned it into like, oh, he's just immortal, he's kind of drunk, and he's just going through time, to where now there's kind of changes. And of course, throwing Albert Einstein in it as a 12-year-old's really kind of a brilliant theory. And I like how he's playing kind of fast and loose with history on this. And that, I think, is really the most interesting part, is taking real history and then kind of inserting this fictitious story into said history, which, like I said, the second issue gave it a really nice twist that I really like. So I think I think it's very much worth checking out. I like the first issue, but I really think that second issue really was quite solid. Next up, we have Nightwing number 114, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Bruno Redondo. So this is the first of a 5-part finale for Tom Taylor and Redondo, who have really revived this book. And what it is we know that Dick has a fear of heights now, and we don't kind of know what has happened and why. So he's really kind of going on a journey to find out. But also, with that going on, that seems to be they're not really, they don't break down the timeline. But my guess is that's in the future, because Heartless is now trying to really take over Bloodhaven, and he invites a bunch of mobsters and stuff who worked for other people to come and join his cause, and it's an offer that they basically can't refuse. So I'm not going to say any more, because it's really messed up what happens. But we're kind of seeing this all this stuff that Taylor and Redondo have kind of set up with Bloodhaven and the Heartless is coming to a head, and this is going to be the big finale for the storylines that they've set up. As you all know, I'm a huge fan of this book. What the really nice is Bruno Redondo is actually doing both. He's doing all the artwork, which usually he's mostly done pencils. So it was really nice to see. And of course, you put Batwing in it, and it's kind of a win. But it's a really good start to this final story. While I'm sad to see them go, I'm glad in a way that they're going out on top. They're not overstaying their welcome, which is always good in comics, because we've seen how well somebody just staying on a book doesn't work out in the long term. Next up, we have Sanctions number 1, written by Ray Fox with artwork by Antonio Fusco. Now, this came out last week, but I did want to point it out. So what it is it takes place in 1987 Leningrad, and there's a woman that's been murdered, and Detective Pavel Smirnov is the first one, but he hands it off to one of his partners, Boris Dmitrievich, because he's like, she's a hooker, she's been killed, it's going to be an easy case to solve. But what Boris discovers is that there is something going on underneath. This is not a simple murder. And we also kind of learn that it's a cover-up. There's something else going on, and that there's a connection to a previously unsolved murder that Boris discovers. Everybody, and the scary thing about this is that Pavel kind of discovers, hey, there's a reason I was called in on this first case, because they want it wrapped up. They want it's a pure cover-up, and that was really interesting. I really like that. Fox's story is really good. Of course, placing it in Russia in 1987, the height of the Cold War. And it's really intriguing how all this fits together. And then Fuso's artwork is really, really nice. He really captures that feel of that period and the coldness of Russia. That's what's really interesting. And the use of color in here, how they sometimes not use much color, and then they, the red will stand out for certain reasons. I really, really like this book. I was really quite surprised. And coming from Mad Cave, a lot of this stuff is kind of, sometimes iffy. This was a real surprise. So if you can find this at your local comic shop, definitely check this out. I really like this book a lot, and it'll be interesting to see how that second issue comes. Because, like I said, I really enjoyed this book. Next up, we have Spider-Gwen the Ghost Spider number 1, written by Stephanie Phillips with artwork by Frederick Masson. So Gwen has been sent to New York from Earth 65 because there's been some sort of problem, and the TVA has sent her there to protect her family and friends. And the whole point is, while she's there, she's not supposed to be Spider-Gwen, but she goes to the bank to try to set up a bank account, but she has no Social Security. And of course, while she's there, there's a robbery, so she turns into Spider-Gwen and saves the day. And then she gets chewed out by her TVA agent that she has to, like, she's here to hide. And of course, it takes place in like the Earth 1 type Spider-Verse. And, it was okay. I don't think it was terrible by any stretch of the imagination. It was a good story, but nothing super compelling. Philip's script is nice and everything, and it does everything it kind of needs to. It's kind of like, okay, that's nice. I will say, Manson's artwork, the artwork's nice and everything. It's one of those comics that's okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's okay. If you're a fan of Gwen, you could probably do a lot worse with this, but I think it's just not, for me, compelling enough to like keep on reading. It's nice and everything, but once again, it could have been a lot worse. And with Marvel lately, it could have been a lot worse. So it's okay. Next up, we have Uncanny Valley #2, written by Tony Fleece with artwork by Dave Watcher. Now, once again, this came out last week, so I missed it, but I definitely wanted to, kick it back in. So Oliver and his Toon grandfather have escaped the crows that had been sent to capture Oliver. And so they're on the run. They're on the run. And so his grandfather tells him that the reason that his special powers is that he's half Toon, so he can do Toon things even though he's human. So they get chased by a coyote because their car gets hit by an anvil, and so I really don't want to give too much away, but basically his grandfather teaches him how to tune out, how to do Toon things. And it's really quite interesting. I really like what Fleece is doing with this story, and how, there's a mystery in why Oliver is the way he is. We know that obviously his mother slept with the Toon, but we don't kind of know all the intricacies of that. And his grandfather is starting to fill him in, which is also filling in the readers to like kind of what's going on. But as any good story, Fleece hasn't revealed all of it yet. He's slowly unraveling the mystery of Oliver, which is really intriguing. And the grandfather's basically kind of Yosemite Sam. You're going to see a lot of characters that are very similar to other characters. And then you have Watcher's artwork, who really, he can do both the kind of real world and Toon world, and they just blend together beautifully. And shows how good of an artist he really is, because he makes like the grandfather, when they're sitting at a diner, just very believable that he's sitting there, even though he's a Toon. He just fits in, just as in Oliver fits in with him in a weird way. I really like this book. The second issue was really built nicely on the first issue. Definitely still well worth buying this week. Next up, we have Cobra Commander #5, written by Joshua Williamson with artwork by Andrea Milana. So this wraps up the miniseries for Cobra Command, and to no one's surprise, this is kind of the beginning of Cobra Command. But really, the story is about him joining forces with Destro to, really create Cobra Command. But there's the whole, obviously, outside with the Energon universe of the Transformers and the Decepticons and G.I. Joe, which we saw with Duke. So all these things, and even Void Rivals is somewhat filling in to this universe. But really, Cobra Commander and Duke and Transformers are all currently taking place on Earth. So they're all kind of feeding on each other a little bit. But this is really a setup for the beginning of Cobra Command, of Cobra. And so it was really a good finale of the story. Williamson wrapped it up, but still, they're still open for the stories to continue. because there's going to be a Destro miniseries and stuff like that. So I like the idea that they're doing miniseries on characters and kind of, but still creating this Energon universe. It's all going together quite well. I've really been quite surprised with all the quality of books. Obviously, Transformers with Daniel Warren Johnson was, for me, it's like, oh crap, Daniel Warren Johnson, shut up and take my money. But I've been really impressed with a lot of the other books, especially with the miniseries like Duke and Cobra Commander. The quality of those were really good. So this wraps up. I know the trade's coming out fairly soon because they're doing trades pretty much after the miniseries wraps up. So I know Transformers, the first 6 issues trade just came out. So it shouldn't be long. If you missed this book, definitely check it out. But be forewarned, as I reviewed the first issue, the first couple issues were just bat crazy. They were just nuts, and it didn't make any sense, but it kind of was just, you're just reading it. And also there's Cobra Law is going to filter into this, so that's kind of an epilogue to this. So we'll see where all that goes, but I really did enjoy this book. Next up, we have The Butcher Boys, #1, with story by Landry Q. Walker and Pernell Vaughn, with the script by Landry Q. Walker and artwork by Justin Greenwood. So what this is that these 6 friends go on a road trip. They normally go to a lake, but they decide to go to this ghost town where there's the legend of the Butcher of La Padita. And so when they get there, it's kind of a ghost town, but people do live there. But there's obviously some sort of evil thing lurking in the background of this town. And then there's a fight between a couple of the people. They decide they're going to leave, and the car doesn't start. That's the basic story here. Yeah, this one was really just kind of okay. To me, it really felt like a movie script that didn't get picked up, a horror movie script, and they decided to turn it into a comic. The problem is it's just really basic. I mean, it's like, here's the checklist of 5 things to happen. You set it up that there's going to be something bad that happens. There's a mystery in this town. They fight. They try to leave, and they can't leave. It's just one of those things. It's like all the check marks of kind of a crappy, bad horror movie. It just, once again, you've read the story a million times, and there was no real different hook to keep me going. I mean, at this point, it's like, oh, there's a mystery here. The kids are gonna, hallucinate and probably try to kill each other, and they can't escape, and the town's in on it, and you've read this a million times. I will say Greenwood's artwork's nice, but it's just the story is so basic, and you've read it a million times. It's just not. This one's a skip this week. Sorry, it's sad to say. Next up, we have Wonder Woman, #9. With the main story written by Tom King and with artwork by Daniel Sampry. And then The World's Finest Part 6, written by Tom King, with artwork by Belen Ortega. So the main story is that Sovereign's still trying to break Diana. And so what he has done is he's locked her in a prison, and he's cut off her food, and he's basically trying to mentally break her. But what it is so while he's trying to do that, she retreats into her own self and imagines herself with Steve. So she's trying to imagine, reality when there is no reality. She imagines that she's talking to Steve, and they're traveling to different things. She's just basically trying to keep from breaking. That's really what this story is about. It's very simple on the surface, but there's so much subtlety to King's script that it's kind of a mental FU to your brain in a way, but she's trying to keep that from happening. And it's really, I found it very intriguing. Now, I have read some reviews. I know a lot of people have really been tough on this book, but I really like what King is doing here. He's really delving into the character of Diana, and which is really interesting. It's just not all fights and villains and stuff like that. There's a lot of subtlety, even though it seems like, sometimes King has a lot of dialogue, but the dialogue's very important to what's going on, and that's what he's doing here. And Sampre's art, once again, it's a gorgeous looking book. I really like it. I know that some people have been kind of turned off, but I like the fact that he's doing something different with Wonder Woman without trying to reinvent the wheel. That's what he's doing here. And, it's going to be one of those things. You're either going to like what he's doing or not. I love what he's doing. I think it's really the right direction for the book. And it's really good. I love it. And I really, the backup by King and Ortega, this one might be the best one yet, and they've done some really good ones. World Finest Part 6. So the Damian and John, the boys, get in trouble with some magic, and they are turned into corgis. Now, they still have all their powers and stuff, but they're basically dogs, and they act like dogs. So Trinity she's trying to figure out how to break the spell, because she goes to Zatanna to say, hey, the boys have been turned into corgis. How do I fix this? And she's like, well, then it'll eventually wear off, but you can try to make it wear off by trying to teach them to be themselves again. So the basic of the story is she's trying to teach them to be them, and they just want to be dogs, and they fight over balls. And then she's like, oh, well, maybe I'll take them to the city. And then people are like, I don't want to give it away. It's just brilliant. Ortega's artwork, the fact that they could make a book out of her drawing corgis, the two boys as corgis, I'd pay big money to see that. I would love to see that story just be like, I know it works really well as a short story. It was freaking hilarious. The artwork is gorgeous. The corgis are adorable. Of course, Damien's a little more gruff, but John's kind of like, and it was just a blast. I loved it to death. It was just a hoot. And finally this week, we have Feral number 3, written by Tony Fleece with artwork by Trish Forrester and Tone Rodriguez. So Elsie, Lord, Patch are learning the rules for survival out in the wild because of all the rabid animals, but they're also being hunted down by this group that has been sent in to kill all the feral animals, and they're just shooting left and right, no matter whether it's feral or not. And so they're just trying to survive, and they need to learn the rules, and that's kind of where they want to get home. And so they towards the end of the issue, it looks like they get home, but really what has happened to the home, what is going on, that's really kind of the underlying thing. There's the surface of them trying to survive, but there's that underneath of like, what's going on here? Why is this happening? What has caused this? That's really kind of where the story is starting to bubble up. We're starting to slowly see that with Fleece's scripts. Forrester and Rodriguez's artwork is nice. I mean, it's kind of that horror thing like Stray Dogs. It's the same team who did that. So you see a lot of similarities, but very different at the same time. And I think this is an ongoing series, so I think we're seeing more of a long-term story here. So we'll kind of see where it's going, but I am continuing to like it. Of course, the artwork I just love, and it's really coming along. And I like how they're slowly building out everything in this world. Like there's, they're trying to survive and like what's going on. So we'll kind of see, hopefully we'll kind of get more layers of that mystery peel back in the next few issues, because we'll kind of see where that goes. That's going to do it this week. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner, the owner, runs a great store. They offer discounts on trades and graphic novels. So like the Hellboy and the Barkham Asylum, they offer 20% off every day of those books. They have a great manga selection, all ages books like Barkham Asylum. They offer discounts on those every day. And if you start a subscription with them, like a pull box, you could get a discount if you order enough books every month. And I think it's just like 10 books. So the minimum's not too hard. And with so many books coming out, it's pretty easy to hit the minimum. I think it's 10, but don't hold me to that. But you can always call and check with the store. There's Ryan, Wendy, Annie, and Derek runs their socials. Check out their Facebook group. There's always we're always posting a lot of fun stuff there about the industry and just fun stuff in general. But as always, really support your local comic shop and make sure that if you order stuff, make sure you pick it up on a timely basis. because they have to pay for it before you do. So don't leave them in the lurch. Just make sure you pick up your books on a regular basis and really support your local comic shop as best you can. And as always, we end our show with be kind. Be kind to each other and be kind to yourself. I know times are tough and it seems like the world's falling apart, but taking the time to be kind to others and to yourself and taking care of yourself so you can be kind to others is very important. So I know it's rough out there, but just take care of yourselves, and try to look at the brighter side of things. I know, like I said, trust me, I get it. Things are tough. Money's tight. Everything's tight. And just take care of yourselves out there. That's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. We're having a lot of new subscribers. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you'll continue to like the reviews. I'm trying to get more content up. It's just really tough. It's been very busy at the 9-to-5 job. But I will hopefully get some more stuff up soon. We've coming up in the US, we're coming up to Memorial Day weekend. So have a good, hopefully you get the Monday off so you can spend some time with family and friends. So have a good long weekend. Go to your local comic shop this weekend. They might be even having special deals or something. Who knows? But you can there's always something to find at your local comic shop. So definitely go check them out this weekend while you're out and about. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and share our YouTube channel. It's always appreciated. Comments are welcome. And that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. We'll do it again next week. I don't know. It might be a little later because the books, with the holiday being on Monday, they might be a little later. So the review video might get a little later. We'll just have to see when the books show up. That's going to be a big part of it. So, take care of yourselves and we'll see you next week. This is Steven from popculturemaven.com signing off. We'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.